everyone, Karen here, and before we get started on today's project, I want to do a little segment called Will It Cut It? So what I did is I started off with the biggest nesting die here, and I went through a lot of materials that I have around my craft room. Now, one of the first things I cut was some fun foam, or craft foam, whatever you want to call the foam. It has a lot of different names. Now this foam is very thin. I got this on Amazon. And it's great thin. You buy it in a big, huge package, only a couple dollars, but it is very thin. And yes, my Gemini did cut that. I used this die here that I've had for a long time. And it was an intricate die. This was called Silhouette Flamingo. And that's what I'm going to use on today's card. But it did, indeed, cut out the foam. And after I did that, I said, well, let's try some other things we have here. Now this here is burlap, but it came in a pad. I got it at the craft store, and it was in with the other pads of paper, because you will see other things besides paper and pads sometimes. And I have some of the things here. So you can see there was a hole in it, so it was in a pad, and it is kind of thick. Now this, the Gemini did have the hardest time. I did have to run it through twice with the magnetic shim. So I used all the plates and ran it through twice, but then it did cut it. So this is something you're definitely going to see in a card later on, because that looks really cool. I like that a lot. So after I cut that, so I'm like, what else do I have in my craft room? Well, I had this. This is very thin. You can see this is much thinner. This is actually cloth that is backed with paper. And once again, this came in a pad of paper, just like any other pad you would get. But it's like denim. It's like a thin denim. And I've used this a lot. I don't have that much of this pad left. But yes, absolutely, Gemini cut it. And that looks really nice too. That would look really nice on a card. So then I went in my other drawer, and I took out my corrugated cardboard that I had. And yes, it cut it just fine. Didn't need the magnetic shim. Cut it one pass, cut it all the way through. It did smash it down a little bit along the edge here. I don't know if I can get close enough you can see it. Right here where the die sat on top of it, it did mash it down a little bit, but it gave it kind of a neat effect. So yes, it will cut the corrugated cardboard. So then I went over to where I had some non-paper things that I have that I'd use to cut my Cameo. Now all of these are from Cricut. But just because it's on Cricut, you can use it for other machines. So first thing I did was try the faux leather I had. And yes, it cut the faux leather. It cut it just nice, one pass, not a problem. So after I tried the leather, I moved on to the faux suede. Now this faux suede that Cricut makes is really kind of nice. It comes in all kinds of colors. There's a beautiful red. There's a couple shades of brown, there's a gold, a cream, and a black. And I don't think the camera's doing that black justice, but it's really quite nice. So when I ran it through, it absolutely cut it. Now this red is much darker than it's showing up on camera. It's more of a burgundy color. That is really red there. But how nice would that be like on Christmas cards? But it absolutely cut all these things. Other things I cut, and I did take the intricate Flamingo here, and I did cut the blue denim fabric, and I also cut some cork, because I also have a pad of cork that is very thin. You can see how thin that is. That is very, very thin. And it cut that too. But all these I found in the paper section. Just look in your local craft store, or look online on Amazon, and you will see there's all kinds of thin papers that will come in pads that are all kinds of different materials. And our dies will absolutely cut these out. So now let's get on to our project. Alright, so what we're going to do today is we're going to take the pink flamingo that was cut out of the foam, and I am going to put it on top of some watercolored card, and I'm going to use denim for a background. And I'm going to tear a piece of this cork, and I have a message for the inside, which instead of paper, I'm going to use the cork for my matte layer on the inside. But to get this started, oh, and it's going to be happy birthday. And when I cut out the flamingo, you see how there's a flower here? I kept the pieces, because those pieces absolutely could be used as an embellishment on the card. So we're going to do that. But to get started, where we're headed is this. I made one of these this morning because it takes a while to dry. But this is where we're headed. So what I'm going to do is I have a piece of cold press watercolor paper. Let me move all this to the side so this doesn't get messy while we're doing this. And the first thing I'm going to do is spritz this with some water. I'm just going to give it a light spray there, just a little bit of water, because when I put the ink on here, I want it to flow readily. So I'm going to take water reactive ink, and regular dye ink will also work for this. This is parakeet. I'm going to put some on my silicone mat here. I'm then going to spray this with water, get it nice and wet. I'm going to spritz the back of my card since it was starting to curl up on me a little bit. That way it will lay flat. I'm going to grab a big brush. That still looks like it's kind of dark, so I want this to be a little lighter. I'm going to mix this together. I'm going to put some color on here. And I just want an initial color on here. I don't want this to be really dark. That's just the initial layer, just to get the cream color off, to where you're going to say, that's just a light blue. Alright, now the next thing we're going to do is I am going to, first let me wipe this up. I'm going to bring in a palette because I'm going to make some messy things here. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to take some of this blue ink again, and I am going to smush some ink in here. Now if you just have watercolored color, you can do that, but you want to make sure you're not going to dilute this too much, so you don't want something that's too watery. We'll put a little more on this side. That should be good. Let me put this to the side. Now I'm going to take some glossy texture paste. So when it says it is transparent gloss, it's going to be clear, but you can add color to this. So I'm going to scoop some out because I don't need a lot. That's probably enough. I am going to mix this together. See, this is why you don't want to have anything too watery on here, because it will thin out your paste. And we'll just keep mixing this a little bit. Over here. Now how I want to put this on here is I'm going to take a natural sponge. So it has all kinds of different odds and ends shapes. And I'm going to spritz it with just a little bit of water, just so it's a little damp, because it had gotten a little dry since I used it this morning. Oh, water got on there. Wipe that off. Alright, so I'm going to take the very irregular side that's here, and I'm going to dip that in the paste. And now I'm going to dab this on my paper. Now you don't want to dab it too much, because I think I got dabbing it a lot on the first one I did, and I ended up flattening it a little bit. So I want to make sure I don't flatten this one. And I'm already liking this one better. Let's just dab it a little bit until I get just a little bit of texture. See, the more you dab it, the more it flattens out. So let's take a look here. There we go, now we can see it. Let's see, let me change my lighting here. There we go, that's a little better. Now you can see it a little bit more. I turned one of my lights off. So now we have this very textured blue pattern going here. Now once this dries, the blue will be kind of shiny and it will be slick, and then it will be ready to use. And this, when you feel this, the whole card kind of feels like it now has a coating on it, where we started off with this cream, but it will end up like this. And as you can see, I left more bumps on this one, so this one will be a little bit bumpier. Alright, so let's clean this up. Alright, so this is the one we're going to use. This is the one I made earlier, because even though I tried taking the heat gun to it, it still is taking a hot minute to dry over there. So I'm going to go on with this one here. So on top of the card, I'm going to do the foam Flamingo. And this is all going to sit on a piece of the denim. Now the denim is 6 3/4 by 4 3/4, and this is 6 1/2 by 4 1/2. So that is going to sit on here like this. The Flamingo will go on here. Now I have a piece of the cork. Now I don't want just a straight piece of cork here. I want something torn and a little bit more interesting. So I am just going to tear this down the whole length here. Take a look at it, see if any of it's too thick. I can rip some more of it off. Let's see, we'll tear that part off. That looks pretty good. So that is going to go on here. Now let me bring in the card base for a minute so we can see how big everything's going to be here. So this is going to be like this. Now I do want this to hang off a little bit. And I also don't like this straight edge here. So I'm going to tear off the edge here a little bit. And I'm just pulling it off with my fingers. That kind of tore a little straight, so we'll tear a little more off. And then I'm going to leave this here because this will hang off just a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to bring this up here so you can look at it, and you'll see this is going to hang off just a little bit further than the blue piece that we put all the texture paste on. So that's all going to layer up like that. Now this looks a little flat to me just because it's all one color. So I want to show you something else you can do with this foam. So you can ink over this foam. So let me bring in a piece of scrap paper. Now I have, again, a water reactive ink, and this is a fuchsia. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to darken parts of this just to give it a little more something so it doesn't look so flat. We'll do the tail feathers really dark. We'll do that a little bit darker. Maybe make his legs a little darker. Let's see, let's put a little more in the beak here. So now our little bird has a little bit more color to it. So now when it sits on the blue, it just has a little more interest. And that absolutely works just fine. Alright, so now let's start gluing all this together. Now I'm just going to use regular pH neutral glue. I've just put it in the small bottle. Alright, so I'm going to start with the blue denim fabric paper baked paper on the bottom, and this will go next. Alright, and this is just going to go in the middle because this one is, like I said, 6 1/2 by 4 1/2. And we're just going to move that to the middle. And this glue will work just fine. I don't think Hallel glue would stick to this. I would definitely use some kind of a tacky glue. And we'll give that a minute to grab. So then next, we want to place our cork. We're going to place our flamingo. Now I have 3 pieces from when I was cutting out the flamingo. I have the denim, I have a piece of cork, because I did cut out a cork one. Remember I cut these out, the cork and the denim. But this piece really did look like a nice flower, so I decided to keep these. So I am going to line these up like this. Almost thinking I think I like the bird that way better. I do. You know what? I'm going to ink the other side. It'll just take a minute. I like him facing that way better. Just ink around the flowers. Ink his head. Now this foam is very thin, so you don't want to pull on it too hard. But that should do it. I think I'm going to like this better. Yeah, that looks better. Alright, so the cork I decided to put on top, the cork flower, because that just seemed to look more balanced with the cork going down the side here. Now, questions, I want them all going in the same direction. Now there is a piece for the center of the flower. Let's see, put it where you can see it. There was a piece when the waist that came out of the bird, and I'm actually going to use that because that's the piece that came out of here, right here, and I'm going to use it on the card too. So let's decide where the bird needs to go and where the flowers need to go. Maybe I want it that way. Yep, I like that better. Alright, so let's get the flowers glued down and this side glued down. And then we'll put in the stamens. Since that's a little floppy, I'm just going to lay it down here. But yeah, next time you're in your local craft store, look, you'll be surprised at all the different things that are in there. And as long as something is thin enough, your die should be able to cut it. That will be on there. This will be here. And I think the happy birthday will end up over here. Or maybe down here. Yep, I think up there. Alright, so there's that. Okay, that is all glued down. Now let's get the flowers glued down. Actually, let's do the bird first. So I'm going to flip the bird over, and I am going to put a little bit of glue in any spot that is big enough. Because this is a pretty intricate little bird. We'll put some on his feet. Over here. And some over here. Get that glued down. And I'm going to tap it with my finger just to spread out the glue a little bit better. There we go. So let's see, it's Mr. Flamingo. Here, we'll go about here. And we'll push that down. Get his feet all down. So now let's glue down the flowers. Once again, this one is in the cork. And we'll angle that one that way. Now let me grab the little stamen. Make sure I've left enough room for the stamen here. Takes that will go in that way. I will say this cork is a little brittle, but I've had it quite a while, so I think that's why. So this will go here, little stamen broke in half. So I'll just put that in there in 2 pieces. Just kind of work that in there. So there's the first flower. Now let's put the second flower in. I think I'm going to angle this one a different way. And I will grab the stamen that is the denim. That one's going to be a little longer since the cork one broke, but I will fix that later. Now we'll put the pink one on the bottom. And we'll have this one go in the other direction again, maybe facing down. Now let's grab the stamen for the pink one. And we'll put that in there. And I just want to move that down so there's a little space there. Now we have this so far. So now we have happy birthday for the outside. Maybe I will put it down here. So I have to pick a color. I think I'm going to pick, I think blue. I think I will pick a nice dark blue and I will color that. Let's move this over here. Now I have this dye ink from Gina K that is called Denim Blue, so I think this will be a good match. And let's make sure I'm doing the right side. And let's just ink some blue on here. There we go, we don't want it too uniform. Now you know what, I think I will put this up on foam. So I have this very skinny 1/16 foam, and that's what I'm going to use for this. Cut a piece off. Put some behind the happy birthday. I want to say this is about 1/4 of an inch wide, but it's still the 1/16 thick. And it's just, I have foam in the 1/4 and the 1/2 inch sizes. I like to keep both handy. Alright, so this will go on here, like that. Bring our card back in again. Yeah, that's going to be cute right about there. So let's glue this down. Alright, now I do have a gem for the flamingo's eye. I have a clear gem, and I'm going to put his eye right, I think it should be right about here. And I'm going to leave it alone. Okay. So the front of the card is done. Let's get that attached. Alright, so let's put some glue on the back of here. Go around the outside. And with the paper backing, it's going to attach just like anything else. So the regular glue will be fine. And let's put this in the middle. That's all good now. So let's look at the front here. We have some cork, we have some foam, we have some cloth that's backed with paper, we have regular paper, we have some texture paste that gives this a nice rough shiny feel to it. There you go. So let's talk about the inside. So the inside is wishing you a birthday that's as fabulous as you are. I hope you can flamingo all day. Alright, so we're just going to glue this down. And with the cork, it is going to absorb a lot of the glue, so you do want to put a decent amount of glue on here. Now, definitely look around in the Cricut section of your stores, because any of those Cricut materials that they sell, you absolutely can cut those with your dies, because they make a lot of different materials you can cut. Alright. That's a little crooked. Now this piece here, the rectangle, the plain rectangle, I cut with my guillotine. So it cuts on there too. Alright, so let's glue down the cork. Make sure we get plenty of glue in the middle here. And lay this down. So there we have it. Our little card that has all kinds of textures on it. It has the foam, it has the cork, it has texture here, it's got some gems, it has some cork in the inside. So it won't take you any longer than any other card to do. It die cuts exactly the same. And I hope you enjoyed this card, and if you did, give me a thumbs up, because that is indeed how YouTube counts everything. And please consider subscribing to my channel. And until next time, stay crafty.